Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tar Takes for your second edition. It is April 23rd, 2018, and we are ready to go with your host, Ryan Lipton.
And your co-host, David Matlock.
The NBA playoffs are underway. Houston is up 110 to 84 right now over Minnesota. And the NBA playoffs, I might add, are a ton of fun to watch as well. There are a bunch of good series, just like Cleveland and the Pacers. What do you make of the Cleveland Cavaliers' struggles? It is tied 2-2. They just won Game 4, 104 to 100 last night. It was close, and there was some controversy with some late calls at the end of the game. What do you make of the Cleveland Cavaliers' struggles?
Well, obviously this series is pretty evenly split. These teams are pretty decently matched, I would say. But I would like to bring this argument, circle this argument in saying the Cleveland Cavaliers are a terrible basketball team. The only reason the Cleveland Cavaliers are even in this position as the number 4 seed is because of LeBron James. LeBron James is averaging 32.5, 11.8, and 8 a game. He is the only reason that the Cavaliers even have somewhat of a competitive chance, and it's no surprise to anybody else. But it is absolutely overwhelming the fact that the Pacers have 7 guys who are averaging 9 points or better, and the Cavaliers only have 3. And LeBron James being the leading scorer at 32.5 points a game, the next closest is Kevin Love at 12. This is not a good basketball team. What's your take?
Yeah, I would completely have to agree. Cleveland, I don't know if they get out of this round against the Indiana Pacers. It is extremely evenly matched. Honestly, I think Indiana should have won the game last night. LeBron got very lucky at the end. For those who were watching, Lance Stevenson stripped the ball from LeBron at the end of the game.
Jeff Green.
Sorry, from Jeff Green. You're right. He stripped it from LeBron a few plays before that. But so he stripped it from Jeff Green, and he completely grabbed it. They called the jump ball. The refs called the jump ball off the play, and then they went to the monitors and called it a hostile act. Was the play made by Lance Stevenson.
Just Lance being Lance, man.
And they turned over the call, and they gave 2 free throws to Jeff Green. And that call changed the game. That ended the game. That won the game for Cleveland. So this series could easily be 3-1 Indiana, but it's not. It's 2-2. I still think Cleveland will win, but it's pretty close. It might be 60-40 Cleveland's advantage, and even if they do win this series, they will get past the next round. I'm just looking at who they're playing. They would play Toronto or Washington. Actually, they might not get past it. They might lose to Toronto. That might be a 6 or 7 game series, but whatever it is, I don't see them making it to the NBA Finals. LeBron is carrying this entire team. And last night was a close game, 4 points. They still got a lot of help, 18 points from Kyle Korver, 4 of 9 3-point shooting. He hit 2 threes late in the game. So LeBron's getting some help. It's obviously not a lot of help. Kevin Love isn't really doing much, only 5 points. He did have 11 rebounds. But
He is coming off of a thumb injury.
yeah, but still, injuries are part of the game.
I think this series is a good narrative to compare and contrast LeBron now versus LeBron when he carried that horrible Cleveland Cavaliers team to the finals versus the Spurs.
But that team is nowhere. This team's a lot better.
Well,
There's
what
still
we
Kevin
saw back
Love,
then
and there's
is
still good.
The old
good
NBA,
depth.
you could have that guy that could carry you the distance. Maybe not win it all, but he could carry you there. But now the NBA is different. We are seeing that there's a focus of talent at the top of the game. And someone like LeBron, as great as he is, he's just not able to compete with guys that can just space the floor. Victor Oladipo averaging 22.3. Bojan Bogdanovic averaging 15.8. Miles Turner with 14.8. Lance Stevenson getting in there with 10 points a game. And his next best scorer is Kevin Love with 12. He just doesn't have the firepower or the assistance.
Yeah, and what's also worrisome for Cleveland is, Indiana had 7 players that scored double digits the other day, and they're getting a ton of production from their big man. Thaddeus Young, 12 points, 16 rebounds. Miles Turner had 17 points. Sabonis, he had 19 points and 6 rebounds.
Told you that man Sabonis.
And the game was pretty close. You look at the stats. Cleveland shot 1.9% better from the field. Indiana shot 1% better from 3. Cleveland had 10 turnovers. Indiana had 9. the rebounds, 54-51. It's an evenly matched series. You're seeing LeBron, you're seeing the top talent go against an overall much better team without a superstar at the helm. And it's worrisome. Cleveland probably gets game 5. But, you know, you just don't know. There's 3 games. It's a 3-game series. It could honestly go either way. You still got to lean towards LeBron. But the main thing to take away from this series is LeBron is questionable to make it out of the first round, and that's an issue. You don't have teams that are questionable to make it out of the first round that make long playoff runs. You just don't have that. LeBron, whatever, I remember last week we brought up the stat that he won 21 straight first-round playoff games. That didn't happen this year. He lost. He's lost twice. He'll probably lose again in the first round. So even if he gets by this round, who knows if he gets by Toronto, and then later on, will he get by Philadelphia if he gets that far? And that's assuming Philadelphia will be the Eastern Conference team or whoever it is. Will LeBron even get to the Eastern Conference? That's a question we have to ask, and that helps us transition on to question 2. So this one's for David. What's your Eastern Conference Finals matchup, and who's your favorite to take home the Eastern Conference Final crown?
With all the tumultuous news around Cleveland Cavaliers and myself saying that it's a bad team and all that, you have to remember still, this is LeBron and this is the Pacers. LeBron is going to move heaven and earth to get through this series, which I believe he will. May go to Game 7, but LeBron will move heaven and earth to get through that series. But then who would they face? Toronto, Washington. You see, if we have a Toronto in this series, I'm going to take Cleveland over Toronto, and I'm going to have Cleveland going to the Eastern Conference Finals because LeBron matches up well against their best player, DeMar DeRozan. And if your best player is getting locked down by the other team's best player, it doesn't always sound the best for them. And I'm seeing the Toronto wave of choking in the playoffs starting to catch up to Dwayne Casey. Didn't start this whole bench like we've been seeing all year. We didn't see everybody coming off the bench. We ain't seeing everybody producing like they did all year long. They're starting to shift a little to try and be like everyone else and just have focus to DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry doing too much ISO ball. And I think that pressure's starting to mount on them. And I think Cleveland Cavaliers are still going to own the Toronto Raptors like they have for the past 3 years.
I mean, the one thing before I get on to my Eastern Conference Final picks, just on Toronto, I find this interesting. Toronto's always been known, they take a lot of mid-range jumpers. That's just the product of having DeMar DeRozan on your team. He's going to take a lot of mid-range, a lot of low percentage shots. That's sort of been the knock on the Toronto Raptors is you look at the top teams in the league. Cleveland, they shoot the 3 ball well. James Harden and company shoot the 3. San Antonio, Golden State. If you're a good team, you're going to shoot the 3 ball well. That's what Toronto struggled with. What I will say is you look at it so far in the playoffs, DeMar DeRozan shooting 39% from 3 and Kyle Lowry 42%.
Well, I think that's also, the 3 ball was a question of last year, which they sort of addressed this year at adding guys like OG Anunoby, CJ Miles. We're seeing Fred VanVleet coming through and making some threes. And Kyle Lowry can still stroke the 3 ball, and DeMar DeRozan can give you 1 or 2 threes a game. And what they struggled with last year, they developed with in depth, which Masai Ujiri always was able to do whenever he has his team, which he did in Denver and which he's doing right now in Toronto. But I still think that Dwayne Casey, as good of a coach as he is, I think he's feeling the pressure and he's starting to revert back to that timid playoff model that they had.
Yeah, but I mean, just to go back to add a little bit more to the 3-point shooting, is they're shooting 43% as a team. They're making 12 of 28, so those are very good numbers. I don't think they're good enough to beat LeBron. I think LeBron just sort of owns Toronto, like David said before, but I think it will be closer than we've seen. I think it might go 7 games. But to move on to my picks, I do have Toronto versus Philadelphia. The only reason why I have Toronto is I'm a little unsure about whether LeBron can get past Indiana. If he does, LeBron will win that next series. Sorry. If LeBron does, I think he will have a pretty good shot of beating Toronto, but the main focus here isn't really Cleveland or Toronto. I think they're sort of irrelevant when it comes to NBA title talk. It's all about Philly. I mean, Philly looks so good. They're beating up on a good Miami team. Miami, team. Yeah, they're tough. They're not great, but they're good.
They're a solid enough NBA team to where if you have any glaring weaknesses, they can stop you. But To go along with Ryan said, I have Cleveland and Philadelphia. I agree with Philadelphia being in that conference finals because once they get through Miami, no disrespect, but they're gonna win. I mean, Ben Simmons is averaging basically a triple double in your series. Joel Embiid's back. You don't have anybody. You have Hassan Whiteside. Oh, he had 13 and 13 the last game. That doesn't matter. Joel Embiid's a special player. You aren't going to be able to handle him. If the Heat had a star player, they're going to be in contention next year. But I have the Philadelphia 76ers going through, and with Boston being weakened by injuries, tragically weakened by injuries, Milwaukee just not a sound, fundamental basketball team, not a soundly coached team. I have Philadelphia pretty much just blazing through that side, and they're going to meet up with Cleveland. Now, the meeting with Cleveland is going to be interesting. I think that the 76ers are going to be the team to come out of the Eastern Conference. What do you take?
I mean, I completely agree. Just a few stats to throw your way. Ben Simmons, he's a rookie. He's a point guard. He's averaging 19.3 points per game, 10.8 rebounds, and 9.8 assists. Almost a triple-double. He's also shooting 51.8% from the field. So you're getting just absolute superstar play from a rookie point guard in Ben Simmons. He looks like he's the next face of the NBA. A lot of people saying he's the next LeBron James, but he's a little bit better of a pure point guard than LeBron James. Not quite as good of a player, obviously, but probably a better point guard. Then you have Embiid, who's averaging 18.5, 9.5 rebounds, but he's only shooting 31.8% so far. He's just played 2 games, and he's only going to get better, just with experience, just regaining the health, and he's just going to shoot better. And same with J.J. Redick. That's just an underrated signing that no one's really talked about this year, but he's averaging 18 points a game in the playoffs.
Philadelphia has range.
And he's averaging 18 points per game while only shooting 29.6% from 3. So Redick's play is only going to get better. Same with Embiid. You see Philly as a team, they're not even playing as well as they could. You know, they were outshot by 14% to Miami in the last game, and they had 8 more turnovers, 27 turnovers. So if they take care of the ball a little bit better, they're going to just breeze through the Eastern Conference. On the other side of the Eastern Conference bracket, we sort of touched on this. It's either going to be Toronto or Cleveland. If Cleveland gets out of this series with the Pacers, which I'm not sure, I think Cleveland will go on with and play Philadelphia. If not, it will be Toronto, but I think Philadelphia beats them no matter what. Also, I think Philadelphia has the best chance out of any team to defeat Houston or Golden State, whoever it is in the West. Maybe they win 2 games. I mean, it's not like they're going to really contend, but they might sneak in a game or 2.
To add on, to finish up this discussion right here, the Philadelphia 76ers have 2 talents that are very reminiscent of Penny Hardaway and Shaq taking on the court. Along with a guy named Dario Saric, Robert Covington, and J.J. Redick, as he mentioned earlier. They can spread the floor, and then they've got that guy underneath, and they've got that man at point guard, Ben Simmons.
Yeah, okay, so let's move on. Still sort of sticking with the NBA, but we think it might be one more year until Luke May actually declares for the NBA. He, this morning, decided that he will declare for the NBA draft, but he won't hire an agent. He's just testing the waters. We've seen this before with UNC players. I mean, I don't know what the percentage would be, but it's probably a 95% chance at the lowest that he returns. So he's going to be back next year. I would be shocked if he actually enters the NBA draft. But, you know, Luke May, he averaged 16.9 points a game and 10 rebounds last year. He was 13 Associated Press All-American, but can Luke May make it in the NBA?
I would just like to say that Luke May declaring for the NBA draft, the fact that they allow people to declare for the NBA draft and be able to re-enter the college playing field, I think that's great for them because now Luke May can go in and get a little bit of a taste of what the pro scouts think he needs to work on his game. And I think it'll be good for him to develop in the offseason. He needs to work on, obviously, he needs to work on his post-up game a little bit more. His shooting efficiency needs to get better. Rebounding is solid for Luke May, but he has to be able to bang it out with those big men because I see his play is reminiscent of Kevin Love. He needs to be a little bit stronger down low, and he needs to be able to contest a little bit better if he wants to be in the NBA and be a stretch forward.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's great for Luke May. We've seen Roy Williams sort of struggle in developing NBA players. Like, he makes them great players on the college level, but we haven't seen an all-star North Carolina player in a while. It's not like Luke May is going to be that, obviously, but it's just good for him to get some NBA experience. The coaches will be able to help him out, tell him what he needs to work on, to then finally make a push, and hopefully he gets drafted coming out after his senior season. I just don't see it being this season, and here's why. There's two main things that I see. One, he's just not very athletic, and we saw that when he goes up against Marvin Bagley. They played Duke 3 times. So you got to see Luke May have to go up against an NBA caliber player 3 times. In those 3 games, Bagley had 18 points per game and 14.6 rebounds. The 18 points per game, whatever, Bagley's going to score a lot against whoever he plays, but giving up more than 14.5 rebounds per game is crazy. You got to be able to box out, and it's probably just due to athleticism. When Bagley got May one-on-one, he owned Luke May. That's just what's going to happen in the NBA. That's what I see. Obviously, Luke May will probably come back and have a year to get better, but if he went out right now, that's what I would see. The second thing, against big-time opponents, and I have a list right here. Pretty much every single team is an NCAA tournament team. The only one not on the list is Notre Dame. And a lot of people thought they should have made it anyways. But so look at the point totals for Luke May against these games. Against Michigan State, 8 points. Ohio State, 9. Virginia, 6. Clemson, 4 points. Notre Dame, 8. Syracuse, 9 points. And Miami, just 2 points. So against big-time teams, Luke May isn't there. And it's not just once or twice, but you see this in 7 games against top opponents, NCAA tournament caliber teams. He didn't score 10 points. So
well, I think that's also a little bit of a negative shot at Luke May in the sense that, I mean, Roy Williams didn't have those guys he could put in the big positions, and Roy likes to have those big guys. He's had Kenny Meeks, he had Bryce Johnson, he's had Tony Bradley, he had all the Isaiah Hicks. He had those guys. Luke May had to play the 5. Why the hell is Luke May playing the 5 if Marvin Bagley's playing a 4 and we're playing versus Duke? That's the only thing we could do. I'm not going to trust putting out Garrison Brooks. I'm not going to trust putting out Brandon Huffman. I'm not going to trust putting out Sterling Manley. I hate that we couldn't. I wish that they're going to develop. I think they're going to develop. But, I mean, to put that pressure on Luke May to say, you've got to bang it out with centers down low, I think that's just completely fucking unreasonable. I mean, Luke May is how tall? 6'8"? He's 6'8". And I'm 240.
No,
he's a strong guy.
But
Luke May should be playing a stretch 4 position with another guy. He can be that supplemental rebounder that I think Kevin Love is, but he doesn't have. Kevin Love's got an extra 2 or 3 inches on him. And to say that Luke May is underproducing against these teams, he had to play against these crazy centers when he's only 6'8". I think it's a not an accurate knock against Luke May.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're not comparing Kevin Love to Luke May. They're entirely different players. I mean, just with talent-wise, I mean, Kevin Love has always been considered a top pick in the NBA draft all throughout his time in college. Luke May's never been considered that. He's a walk-on. But, I mean, Luke May's 6'8". He also doesn't shoot the ball as well as Kevin Love. That's also an issue.
But he can stretch the floor.
But in the college game. But you can only stretch the floor because he didn't hit the college 3. There's no reason to believe that if Luke May steps out,
that he can shoot the ball.
Yeah, but there's no reason to believe if Luke May steps out to the NBA 3-point line that he's just going to start knocking it down.
That? Well, or even then, he can still hit the long jumper. I mean, it obviously is going to develop to be able to hit the 3, but I mean, to get that knock against Luke May is unfair.
You don't see teams win that shoot the long 2. You're not going to draft Luke May and say, hey, well, he hits the long 2. No, because that's coming out of the NBA game.
But you would like to have a big guy who can hit that long 2.
He's not even a big guy. I mean,
well, then you said it yourself. He's not a big guy. So comparing him in that position as
I said we couldn't quite compare him to Kevin Love, but
I mean, the fact of the matter that the guy was still considered.
I mean, the question is, can Luke May make it to the NBA? No, he's not a big man. He can't play forward, and he can't shoot the NBA 3.
He can rebound and he can shoot.
He didn't play against top competition well. He got owned by Bagley.
If I'm in the NBA, I'm a damn terrible coach if I have Luke May matching up against Marvin Bagley in the NBA. He's going to be on someone else. He's going to be on the 3 or the 4. I'm not matching him up there, but I think he can play there. I think he can play up there. Yeah,
you realize
he's 6'8".
Jeff Green is the same height as Luke May.
Jeff
And how
Green
would that
is-
matchup end?
Jeff Green's garbage. It'd probably be even.
LeBron's the same height as Luke May. How would that end?
Okay, LeBron's different. He can't. LeBron goes up against
I
7
mean,
footers.
just there's no place for Luke May in the NBA.
No, there is a place. There is a place for anyone who can rebound and stretch the floor, which
But he
can.
didn't rebound. He gave up
He
rebounds.
can
to
stretch
Bagley,
the
and he can't stretch
floor.
There's no reason to believe he can stretch the floor
Why can't we?
because he hasn't shown he can shoot an NBA three
He showed that he can shoot the 3-pointer.
in college.
It's still.
That's a short shot.
Whatever.
Okay, let's stay with the Tar Heels though. Stay with Luke May's former teammates, Joel Berry and Theo Pinson. 2 NBA mock drafts have come out recently, with this week Sports Illustrated Jeremy Woo and Bleacher Report's mock draft. Both of them do not have Joel Berry or Theo Pinson being drafted into the NBA draft. Will Theo or Joel get drafted, and which one would you rather have on your team?
In the sense of
Of an NBA team, not college, of an
The
NBA.
modern NBA, I would want to have someone like Theo Pinson because he can switch off and he can guard almost all 5. Probably he can guard to the 4 in the NBA. In college, he could guard to the 5 and the 4. In NBA, I'd put him at the 4. But I'd want to have Theo Pinson because he is a ball handler, he's a good defender, and he can be a facilitator. I love Joel Berry. He was great to watch in college, but I think Joel Berry is limited by this fact of his height, for one. I mean, that's always going to be one, but people can overcome that. His ability to facilitate, which he only averaged around 3.5 assists in his career for a point guard in the NBA. If you're not averaging at least 6 assists, 6, 7 assists, then you're not dangerous enough at point guard, in my opinion. And then shooting percentage-wise, didn't shoot particularly well. Theo didn't shoot well himself. However, I'm not going to be playing Theo expecting him to shoot lights out. Joel Berry, I'm going to expect him to be able to come off the bench and hit me threes, but I'm not going to be able to have him defend anyone in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't think any of them do get drafted. I think if you had to take one, you would take Theo Pinson. But let's talk about Joel Berry here. You know, he needs something to pride his game on. And what's one thing that would translate to the NBA with Joel Berry? And I don't know what that is, right? You said he's a point guard, but he only averaged 3 assists a game last year.
I think he can come off the bench and hit a couple of threes for you.
But he only shot 34% from 3 last year from the college line. Yeah, he's getting a lot of attention, but there's also nothing that showed me that he could be a good spot-up shooter. Because that's what he would be. Is if he came in, he would be a guy that would be on the wing or in the corner, and he would be expected to catch, shoot, hit a 3. I don't think he'd be able to do that. His form's a little bit wonky, and I think that would sort of create problems. It creates problems where he's not as consistent as he should be. He's not a consistent shooter. I think he's a good shooter, not a great shooter. And if you're coming into the NBA and you're undersized and you're not quite athletic enough, which that's what Joel Berry is, and he's not a pure distributor or a pure point guard, he's a scoring point guard. You need to be able to shoot the 3, or you need to be extremely athletic. Joel, he doesn't really check the boxes off of that. You know, obviously I want Joel to be great, and hopefully, you know, if people are telling him that in the NBA draft, he'll use that as motivation, but that's what I see in Joel right now. In terms of Theo, I like Theo a little bit more. If everything went well, you would hope that Theo Pinson could be like a Draymond Green player. He's lengthy, good defender, good rebounder, good passer. Like, he could play point guard, like Draymond Green sometimes does for the Warriors. Shooting is just an issue. But
Draymond's not even that great of a shooter himself.
But the issue is comparing him to Draymond Green is that's what you would hope Theo would turn into, but there's just a huge discrepancy between the players. So here, this is what Theo averaged his senior season at North Carolina, 10 points a game. He shot 47% from the field, which is pretty good, but only 22% from 3. That's the main one. And then 6.5 rebounds and 5 assists. All-around player, solid. But you look at Draymond Green, 16 points per game. That's almost 6 more than Theo. He averaged 10 rebounds a game, 4 more than Theo. And he had 3.8 assists. So he had a little bit less assists. He didn't quite play the distributing role like he does for the Warriors. But Draymond shot 39% from 3. 17% better than Theo Pinson. So I think that's the difference there. Is I think teams are going to look at that and say, where can we put Theo Pinson? Like, what type of player would he be? And I think Draymond Green would be the perfect player that he could mold into, right? But he doesn't have the shooting capabilities that even Draymond had.
But shooting develops with time.
Right, but Draymond was labeled as a bad shooter coming in, and he still is a bad shooter in the NBA, but he still shot 39% in college from free.
Also, Draymond was the
line.
number one offensive option for that. Theo's like the fourth.
I mean,
scoring
Theo's
option,
still a leader for the team.
The fourth,
it's not
fifth scoring option, maybe.
Joel was there, but Cam didn't play the
first
first half of the season.
I think he would be a great a poor man's Draymond Green.
But
get the job done.
But just where does a poor man's Draymond Green fit in the NBA? Like, I feel like Draymond Green is so
Green's
special.
An all-star.
But he's so special to the Warriors. If he signed that deal,
well, then
with
if you put
Pistons,
Theo in a system like that, he would produce.
Yeah, but he's not the same. But you can just look at the stats and see that he's not the same as Draymond Green.
Well, I mean, okay.
6 points a game, shooting's different, rebounds are different.
Well,
Draymond turned into a great point guard in the NBA.
I mean, let's reflect on the fact that
I do also think that the leadership qualities are also similar with Draymond and Theo. I think that's where you see some parallels with Theo and Draymond. They're both great leaders. I think Theo would be great to have in the NBA.
Theo's a better athlete too. I think he is a better athlete.
You might be right there, and Theo has the length. Theo could be a little bit. Yeah,
Draymond's
I don't know.
A little bit longer, but Draymond's. I'm gonna take Theo's athleticism over Draymond's.
Yeah, but Draymond's a top defender. But I think a lot of Draymond's defense is just mental, right? But Theo could do that. But just offensively, like, you need to be able to hit the open three in the NBA, regardless of what else you can do well, right? Like, they're both all around players. But that's where Theo has a greater potential than Joel. Like, if Theo can learn to shoot the three well, then there's a spot for him in the NBA. It's just whether or not he's going to do that. Joel, I don't know where Joel's going to get a lot better, right? Like, athleticism, you can't really change that. Theo has that. We have seen players get better shooting. Joel would have to get better shooting, so would Theo. So I think Theo's the better option, but I don't know, I would be surprised if any of them get drafted. Maybe Theo will find a team late in the second.
Drafted.
Yeah, I mean, I
think Roy did a good job maximizing those guys' potential on the college level, but I don't think they're going to get drafted.
Yeah, I mean, I think Theo maybe finds a team late second round. Theo will definitely. They'll both be on rosters. I think we can admit that. Someone's going to sign them.
Eventually, they'll be on rosters.
Yeah,
I think Joel's going to have to go through a little bit more into the D League and G League. G League.
Yeah, so I think with all the NBA playoffs, the NFL news has been dwarfed a little bit. The NFL draft is on Thursday, so it's only 2 days away. What are your top storylines heading into the draft? What are you going to look for on Thursday during round one?
I think the most interesting storyline for the night is going to be who's going to be the first quarterback taken, which will probably end up being who are the Browns going to pick at quarterback first off. But I think the most important storyline for the draft is who is going to be the heir apparent to Tom Brady. And I think that is the one that we should focus on the most. And I think my top two candidates for that are Josh Rosen and Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson, he showed up to workouts with the Patriots and they were very impressed. And I think if anyone can maximize Lamar Jackson's potential in the NFL, it's going to be Bill Belichick, because Bill Belichick knows exactly where to put players. And I think he understands that Lamar Jackson is being overlooked for reasons that may not be the best. If we're overlooking him because of accuracy, let's look at Josh Allen. He threw for 50% in college. And what was his conference again? I don't even know what conference he was in. Lamar Jackson threw around 59% in the ACC, up and coming, now top 5 football conference. And I think he's a legitimate option. And then, of course, Josh Rosen, who everyone's comparing to, he's the next Tom Brady, he's the next Aaron Rodgers. He's that guy who's probably gonna be one of those guys. But if anyone's gonna be an heir apparent to Tom Brady in any draft, I think it's gonna be this one.
Yeah, I mean, I have two things to that. One, both of them involve the Patriots and Lamar Jackson. I just don't believe that the Patriots are going to trade up and take a quarterback.
They don't need to.
Bill Belichick is 66 years old. I mean, how many more years is he going to coach? Like, is he going to coach until his 70s? Like, what else does he have to prove? Tom Brady is whatever he's 41, 42, however old he is. He's old. That's all you need to know. Like, how many more years does Tom Brady have? Yeah, the cliff is right around the corner for Tom Brady, and so is it for Bill Belichick. So, are you really going to take a quarterback, especially one like Lamar Jackson, where he's not ready right now, and obviously he's not going to play right now if they drafted him because Tom Brady's there, but ideally, like, Lamar Jackson would sit for 2 or 3 years, and then he would come in and play, and Bill Belichick would be 70 years old by the time Lamar Jackson would be playing. Would he really want to stick it out for a whole nother quarterback's career? Then if it doesn't work out with Lamar Jackson, then do people start saying to Bill Belichick, oh, maybe it was Brady was the reason that he won? So then I just don't see Bill Belichick drafting another quarterback. The only way, though, is if Bill Belichick understands he's leaving and he's doing it for Josh McDaniels. There's no reason for him to do it for himself, because I think as soon as Tom Brady's done, Bill Belichick will be done. And the only reason would be to save it for Josh McDaniels, your grooming one, because he had Jimmy Garoppolo. Everyone knows he's upset that they made him trade Jimmy Garoppolo. You know, he executed his plan perfectly. He had Tom Brady play until he's 41 years old.
Yes.
He won a Super Bowl, and he had
a little bit of collusion.
But he had a top 10 quarterback ready to go in Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe even better, right? Maybe even better than top 10. Man. He's a great quarterback, and you have him ready to take over right now. And they stripped that away from Bill Belichick. So I think he's going to be a little bit upset with that. I think, he had his guy. He doesn't want to have to do that all over again.
I think Bill Belichick sees that Lamar Jackson, he's not the same player, but he draws comparisons to a guy I like to call Deshaun Watson. And we all doubted Deshaun Watson coming into the draft, and everyone immediately regretted it. Yeah, he tore his ACL, which was probably one of the worst storylines in the NFL. Like, seeing that guy leave was so disappointing because he was electric on the field. And I think Lamar Jackson draws direct comparisons to Deshaun Watson in the leadership aspect and the athleticism. And I think Bill Belichick sees that. Once they played the Houston Texans, they had to scrap out a game versus the Texans this past season with that game-winning touchdown to Brandon Cooks over the pylon over there. But I think Bill Belichick, you say he doesn't have that much longer, but I think he knows that he needs an heir apparent to Tom Brady. He knew that with Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think he's seeing that with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, but
I think this is, if there's any draft to start looking about the future, this should be the one. This probably has one of the best quarterback potentials.
But what in the past would ever want you or make you think that Bill Belichick is going to trade up for a quarterback?
He took
Garoppolo in the second.
No one's projecting Lamar Jackson to go.
No,
if he thinks anyone else is going to take Lamar Jackson early, then he's going to try and trade up.
Lamar Jackson at 29 or what?
He's projected to fall at like 25, 24.
I don't know. I think I've heard. It seems like Lamar Jackson's going top 15 from I don't think he deserves to go that high. I think there's a lot to worry about Lamar Jackson. Accuracy, durability issues. You brought up the comparison to Deshaun Watson, but the things that you liked about Deshaun Watson were his accuracy, and Lamar Jackson doesn't have good accuracy.
Accuracy in college wasn't the best, but he had the arm strength, and I think
below 60% completion percentage in college. That's not a good sign. Second is he's not a winner. Deshaun Watson went to 2 college football
Lamar Jackson
playoffs.
had to run around Kingdom Come just to throw the ball.
Deshaun Watson won a national championship. One thing that was apparent is when you watched Deshaun Watson, you could say, that guy has the it factor. Whatever the it factor is, he had it. He had it.
No,
you can't say that about Lamar Jackson.
Yes, Lamar Jackson, the Clemson had way more pieces going for them than what Louisville. Louisville had Lamar Jackson. Louisville had Lamar Jackson. Clemson
But
had
it's not
Deshaun
like-
Watson,
it's not
probably
like-
one of the top defensive lines in the country, a solid overall defense, and then they had a great receiver. Was it Mike Williams who was out there on this
Yeah,
side?
but it's not like it's the difference between a championship winning team and a college football playoff team or one of the top 10 bowls.
Yes.
It's the difference between being in the playoffs and winning a national championship versus being in a bowl game that no one gives a shit about. That's the difference. Is you need a quarterback that wins. That's what
Mark
the
Jackson
bottom
wants to
line is.
win.
I
He
don't-
just
I
doesn't
mean-
have the pieces to win.
I don't know. I think it's worrisome if you're using first round pick on Lamar Jackson. The accuracy is just not there. He's 6'3", he's 210 pounds. I mean, 210
Put on
pounds.
weight.
Okay, but what? Is that going to sacrifice his accuracy? Is that going to sacrifice how fast he is? You don't know. Like, people, you just
gotta-
put on weight, but sometimes that affects your game. One is Amari Cooper put on a bunch of weight this year and he had a terrible season. Some people think that's the reason. So you can't just say put on weight. You never know what
Does he need to
impact
put-
that's
well,
going to
then
have.
does he even
Well,
need to
'cause he
put
needs
on
to
weight?
put on
Does he
weight,
even
'cause then
need
if
to
you
put on
don't, then
weight?
it's going to become an RG3 situation where you just can't stay healthy.
Well, I think Bill Belichick is the coach that is wise enough to
I know.
prevent
I mean,
an
it's
RG3 situation from happening. Deshaun Watson was just completely unfortunate.
yeah. I mean, it's not,
RG3 was because of coaching.
yeah. No. I mean, obviously, if you wanted Lamar Jackson to be great, there's no one better than Bill Belichick to coach him, and he would sit behind Brady for 3 years. So yeah, maybe he could put on some weight, but still, there's still the accuracy that's there. There's still the it factor. I think there's a lot of variables. And to say he's Deshaun Watson
I'm
came
not
in
saying
year
he
one,
is, but I
and-
mean, he
and
draws parallels
was
and
in the MVP
comparisons.
race while he was playing. So I also want to, I'm curious to see where does Baker Mayfield go. Denver's, his name's been with Denver a lot right now. So does Josh Allen's going to Denver and a lot of the mock drafts. You have Baker Mayfield maybe going to Miami at 11. Ryan Tannehill's still there. So I'm not so sure about that. You also have Baker Mayfield, maybe number 3 to the Jets. Personally, I don't like Baker Mayfield that much. People compare, he's the next Russell Wilson. Yeah, I mean, he might be a similar prospect to Russell Wilson, but the reality is, when you have a short quarterback, they just don't work out the majority of the time. And it's not saying he can't do that. It's not saying Russell
It's
Wilson
high
can't be
risk.
great.
It's very
Yeah,
high
it's
risk.
a high risk, and it's just not a pick that I think you would want to take in
And then
the
to
top
say
10.
Josh Allen is an high risk is just
No,
stupid.
I'm not saying. I think Josh
Allen's
Allen is a high risk. I think the
volatile.
best quarterback, Sam Darnold. I don't know. I think this
Rosen.
quarterback class could pose a lot of issues for the teams. I think there's a lot of risk for Josh Allen. There's a lot of risk for Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield. So, I mean, even with Sam Darnold, I think Sam Darnold's the best of the crop. But there's risk that comes with every quarterback. There's no clear-cut number one guy like an Andrew Luck and RG3 or whatever. I mean, RG3 didn't work out, but he had a great first year. There's no clear-cut guy that's better than everyone else. But I think it'll be interesting. You always see a crazy team just trade up into the first round and draft a quarterback. You see it all the time. And this is going to create, so like a lot of the teams from 4 to 10 who aren't going to take a quarterback, or whatever those teams are, they're going to get a lot of good defensive players. They're going to start falling because there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks that are going to go 1 through 5 or 1 through 7 or whatever it is. You'll have guys like Raquan Smith fall, Tremaine Edmonds, Minka Fitzpatrick, Denzel Ward, maybe Chubb will fall, maybe Barkley will fall. Right now, a lot of people have Barkley going to New York. New York sort of needs a quarterback. If I was New York, the Giants, I would love New York to trade Eli Manning, trade Odell Beckham, and just take the best player available and start over. Maybe that's a quarterback, maybe that's Barkley, because I think the Giants are done. I think the Giants are done. Okay, so I think that's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back Monday morning next week. Please tune in for more NBA. We'll recap a little bit of the NFL draft and, of course, talk about your car deals.